Denver, Colorado firefighters battle a major tank farm blaze at Stapleton Airport. Magnesium explodes in the city of Industry, California. On second alarm,
I'm producer Jeff Mattoon over Thousand Oaks, California, where a Santa Ana wind-driven fire burned down this multifamily dwelling complex. I'll have this coming up right now on American Heat.
Dr. Bill Kramer will have this month's college question. And American Heaters. Lessons learned by the people involved are coming up right now on American Heat.
Holiday travel keeps airport fire departments on alert to the added possibility of emergencies on busy runways. Hello and welcome to American Heat. I'm Don Marsh.
And I'm Ron Barber. On Sunday, November 25th, 1990, as thousands of holiday travelers made their way home, huge tank farms caught fire at Denver's Stapleton International Airport.
You lost the concept of time when you were there. It seemed like it was dark in no time, and we got there at about 9:25 in the morning, and just so much going on, you forget what time it is. You know, time is irrelevant really when you've got that much happening.
Well, this one was entirely a different situation. It didn't go out right away. So it became very frustrating, and it became a real chore just to control your own emotion about why won't it go out and why can't we do what we want to do.
I knew that we had something really good going, and had to keep reminding myself as we were coming in there, you know, to not get ahead of myself and think it through.
No one on the Denver Fire Department had ever seen or fought a fire like this. They knew about this tank farm at the Stapleton International Airport, and many had imagined what a fire at that tank farm would do. But none of the firefighters envisioned this.
This was a lot worse than I thought it would ever be, and this is one of those fires that they say can never happen.
I knew when they said it that actually it was the tank farm, because that is the only thing behind Continental's hangar that could produce a major fire. So I called the fire department dispatcher and reported the fact that we had a major fire that had been reported to us by the FAA tower, and it would be in the tank farm, and I requested a second alarm assignment.
The initial call came from the airport tower at 0922 and sent Denver Airport rescue and firefighting units racing to the tank farm. The first rigs from the airport arrived simultaneously with a Denver pumper and found the piping and pump area raging with fire and impinging directly on 2 of the farm's 12 tanks. The tanks had been topped off with jet fuel the night before in anticipation of the Thanksgiving travel weekend. Firefighters knew they would have to make a quick and concentrated attack if they were going to stop this blaze early.
I was on Red 2, which is a 1,500-gallon water foam vehicle. When we arrived there and took a position through the gate, pulled into the gate area, immediately we started application of our foam agent. That'll pump 750 gallons of solution, and we were using 3% agent, AFFF. And first application of foam, I started from the west side and covered the piping area and the fuel spill that we had in front of the piping area. A certain portion of it we did knock down. I was very successful in knocking down the standing fire, the fire that was there.
But this wasn't just a standing fuel fire. Broken valves spewed the Jet A fuel and fire into the air, making the initial concentrated foam attacks futile.
We had fuel spraying under pressure. The fuel was ignited. We were able to knock down the running fire and standing fires, but the fuel that was under pressure, it couldn't be extinguished by just hitting it with the turrets on on the crash rigs.
Well, we had fire or fuel spurting 30 feet in the air under pressure. You could knock the fire down, the fire burning in the air coming back down, you had your reignition source. It was numerous leaks, not just a single leak, and it was all high pressure. To be able to get into the close proximity to knock everything down was almost impossible.
Firefighters began to realize that this fire was going to fight them. They called for everyone and everything they could get. The airport crash rigs that had been the first responding vehicles and the logical choice for foam application were making little headway.
These rigs are primarily designed for a quick attack. Now, in an aircraft crash, all you're really concerned with is getting a path initially for the evacuating passengers. Now that's critical because you've only got, in an aircraft crash, you've only got about 3 minutes that the fuselage will withstand fire, and then it'll fail. So the idea of these rigs is to get in, hit it quick, leave a path for evacuating passengers, and then you can go to work and trying to extinguish the actual aircraft fire.
They carry all of their extinguishing agent with them. They are not designed to lay a line for additional water supply. They carry the water supply with them along with the foam agent, the halon fire extinguishing agent, the dry chemical fire extinguisher agent with them, as compared to, you know, a regular piece of equipment where you have a water supply and you go from there. You can set up and go for hours. These things, what we had to do was to set up a regular rotation so that we had certain numbers of our airport equipment actually fighting the fire while other numbers were being filled back up with water and agents so that they would be next in line and go back into service.
You see that much fire, and you know what goes through your mind is, what exactly can I do to make a difference on something like this? And it hit me immediately after watching Red 2 dump their load of foam on the fire that even though they made a moderate knockdown, it wasn't going to do much. So what I thought we needed to do was get water on that tank 3 to cool the tank and the fuel that were in that.
But getting that water would be difficult. The hydrants at the farm were too close to the intense heat, and the overall layout of the farm presented access problems.
So we were limited in how they could get into it from the front, and they were limited in how they could get into it from the back. So they couldn't have taken the hand lines off of the ARFF rigs, the dry chemical lines anyhow, to get them in there. It was just it was really difficult to get in. It's a 16-acre fuel farm, and it's 1/3 of a mile around the outside of the tanks. The limited access roads was a real hindrance to us also.
But probably the biggest concern was getting foam, and a lot of it.
We put in a call for anybody and everybody to come and help. I think right after we got there, when I asked for the 5-inch rigs, they told me we had a 3rd alarm assignment. And we had a lot of mutual aid people come in from Conoco, some of the other experts that came in. And then our biggest problem was the foam. We just didn't have a big enough supply on hand here to be able to handle it. And then when we ran out of the foam that we had here, we had to put in calls across the country, and it took time to get them in here.
The big problem was the different types of foam that we had to use. This equipment is designed specifically for AFFF 3% concentration. And we used everything from 6% concentrate, alcohol-compatible foam, 3%, 6%, 6%, whatever we could get from every department, from every airport that would send us. That's what we were, because we really had a problem staying up with our usage on the thing.
The 2 tanks directly behind the piping and pump area, tank 3 and 4, took too much heat and became engulfed in the flames that had threatened them all morning. As this fire took on a new face, calls continued to go out for foam.
The operations supervisor that was spearheading this from his telephone communication was calling all over the Front Range, what we call the Front Range, Colorado, border to border from Wyoming to New Mexico. We have Colorado Springs, Pueblo, clear up to Cheyenne, and we were looking for additional agent to be supplied to us because we knew we were going to be out. Once we exhausted the Front Range, Colorado, that was in close proximity to Denver, then we started outside of the state. We had shipments come in from Seattle, had shipments come in from Philadelphia, had from Dallas, and there was one shipment, a large shipment was trucked in from, I believe it was somewhere in Georgia. The first 3 loads we asked to be shipped in by aircraft, and then additional agent they put on trucks and flatbeds and started running that into us.
The strategy was simple: contain the fire to the immediate area, cool the exposure tanks, and lay a solid foam blanket on the holding ponds. While everyone agreed on the strategy, ideas for methods of containment and eventual extinguishment varied.
I had somebody from Mississippi who insisted that I use, I think his was liquid nitrogen, and let it evaporate, and he insisted that I know that nitrogen is inert, which I knew, and he threatened me that if we didn't use this process, he was going to let the national news know, and that we would really be in big trouble then. We had that one. We had a local expert, so-called, who said we should just drop dirt on it from a helicopter. Another one that said we should drop large chunks of dry ice into the pits, and they would then melt and create CO2 gas, and they would snuff out the fire. So we had a lot of help.
Chief Gonzalez got an equal amount of viable suggestions and help from engineers and experts both locally and nationally. Gonzalez did not take command of the fire, but did act as a consultant and made environmental decisions.
We had concern about the environmental impact on Sand Creek, which was just northeast of the complex. So we had the ability to drain off some of the water into that creek. Well, with everybody so tense about environmental litigation, that was a decision that would have to be left up to me, whether to open this valve or close the valve, or whether we would have product going there. I didn't want anybody else to be put in that position, so that would be one of my decisions. Basically, that's the level at which I was working, informing the mayor, powers to be, talking to consultants, experts in the field, being debriefed by the operations incident commander, and then making suggestions. And quite frankly, being somewhat of a cheerleader. I think it serves the department well, and the members within the department, that they see the chief out there and just encouraging them, and you know, and letting them know what's going on. So that was kind of my job. I'd go out and around the scene and talk to people and see how everybody was doing, and making sure everybody had what they needed, and coordinating with some of the outside agencies.
As night fell on Sunday, firefighters seemed to be holding their own on the exposure tanks. But at about 10:30 Sunday night, they had a setback.
I thought we lost it Sunday night. When there's some differing opinions as to what really was the cause behind that, but it looks as though maybe the 16-inch piping coming out of tank 4 let go completely, and we had 16 inches of fuel flowing into the southern dike and the central dike all at one time. We had all that fuel burning practically at once.
Letting this fire burn itself out became a questionable strategy.
The burn strategy was working to the point that the tanks did exactly what they were designed to do. They slowly came in upon themselves, so we had that pretty well controlled. The only problem that we really had was underground pipeline feeding it back that we weren't aware of. Looking back in it now, you can say, should have paid a little more attention to the valves, tried to cool them down a lot more, and alleviated some of our problems. But at the time, we thought that all the valves were shut off.
They weren't, and the 440,000 gallons of fuel fed these fireballs. To compound the problem, the temperature in Denver dipped and the weather got nasty, causing operational headaches.
We felt that we had it pretty much contained, and we had that cold front come through, and it blew the foam blankets off of the holding ponds, and we had another large volume of fire. So there were a couple of times there when I thought the possibility we might lose more than just the 2 tanks that we ended up losing.
Firefighters also had to be monitored for fatigue. Many had been working on scene all day.
Mostly the rehab portion of it, thanks to the Salvation Army, they had their truck there, and whoever the exposure chiefs were would alert the different crews as far as, well, why don't you take a break and go get some Gatorade and something to eat. And they were, you know, real aware of people and their fatigue.
Fresh crews arrived, and those who had watched this fire tease them throughout Sunday went home to rest, knowing it was still burning.
Well, the feeling, or the term bummed out, is fairly accurate, and I don't think anybody that left there went away with a great feeling. All that you could do was look back at everything that you did do and realize the enormity of the effort, and still, you know, what can you do to make a difference? It was frustrating.
Monday's tactics remained the same as command evaluated and re-evaluated their options. Tanks 3 and 4 had collapsed, and the fire was still burning madly in that area, with direct impingement now on tank number 5. Tank number 10 in the rear was also threatened, but firefighters were managing to keep all other tanks cool. Then, late Monday night and early Tuesday morning, tank number 5 started signaling that it would not survive another full day of fire.
Basically what began to occur, the fuel temperature in tank 5 was such that it was producing a considerable amount of vapors, and they were building up in the area between the floating lid and the lid for the tank, the top of the tank. And when there was plenty of flame impingement at this time on the tank. We were trying to keep it down, but on occasion it was getting direct flame impingement. And when the vapor-air mixture between the 2 lids was right and it got a source of ignition, it blew, and this tank would come up, the top of the tank would come loose a little more at each one of these explosions. And one of the guys who was on exposure 4 was kind of timing these things, and they were occurring within a couple of minutes. They were occurring about every 30 minutes.
Firefighters had called Williams, Boots, and Coots to Denver on Monday afternoon to hear their suggestions. Everyone agreed to wait and see what Tuesday morning brought. With specialized training equipment and a host of firefighters, a coordinated attack using foam and dry chemical began smothering the stubborn fire. By Tuesday afternoon, firefighters were shaking hands and rolling up hose, thankful that it was finally over.
I think had we had the resources that Williams, Boots, and Coots brought in, and of course the experience and knowledge, we could have put this fire out as easy as they did put it out. But we simply did not have the resources available to us. If someone is contemplating a fire in this sort of a facility, they better get their resources together and have them there, you know, ahead of the fire so they can put it out initially.
It's easy to say don't be overwhelmed by what you come upon, but you have a real tendency to do that. You get caught up in the enormous size of the fire, all of the activity going on, trying to coordinate everything else that goes through there. You function, you get everything done, and it's always easy to go back and second guess yourself and say, well, I should have done this. But at the time, you make the decisions the best that you can and do what you can and what you think is right there. It just, I had to keep pinching myself and say, slow down and make sure you do what you're supposed to do and don't go off and do something half-cocked.
Keeping an inventory of working agreements of what you're going to do, what you're going to look for. It's very nice to feel that we'd never have a large major disaster and work under those conditions, but all of a sudden you can have something that just taxes your capabilities to the extreme, and that's what happened with Denver Stapleton.
A new airport serving Denver is slated for completion in 1994. Meantime, the Denver Fire Department is involved in the planning and creating of codes for new tank farms with better gasket material and holding ponds more properly situated.
Magnesium fires can be explosive and dangerous. Recently, in the city of Industry, California, a major fire broke out when magnesium chips ignited in a warehouse.
Fire paramedic.
Yeah, we need the fire department over here.
Okay, what's the address?
15429 East Proctor Avenue, City of Industry. It's a magnesium fire.
Magnesium fire?
Magnesium fire, yeah.
Okay, what's the name of the building you're in?
Mark Metals, M-A-R-K, Metals.
2:44 p.m., December 4th, 1990. A fire breaks out at the Mark Metals warehouse in the City of Industry, sending spectacular flames in the air that can be seen 30 miles away. Los Angeles area motorists easily spot the blaze from the freeways. These pictures are shot by an amateur videographer just after the fire starts. Before the day is through, more than 120 firefighters will be on scene fighting this blaze for more than 6 hours. Los Angeles County firefighters from Station 43 are only minutes away. When they arrive at the incident, the fire is roaring through the roof and is quickly spreading. 10 minutes into the fire, the blaze is elevated to 2 alarms. At 3:10, a third alarm is called. Nearby structures are in danger. The firefighters know that tons of potentially explosive magnesium chips for use in the manufacture of aircraft engines and other products are stored in the warehouse that's involved. Captain Arnold Carter and his firefighters adopt an aggressive defensive mode.
At the time, I originally took a defensive position. I just wanted to cover the exposures, keep everybody out of the building, and go from there, and that's exactly the way we attacked it. We directed one of the first-in ladder trucks to come to our position in front, and we put the first 2 engine companies in the rear, and the engine companies in the rear used their deck guns for exposure protection, and in the front we used a deck gun on engine 43 and the ladder pipe off of truck 118 for the same purpose. Well, all of the personnel were directed to have full protective clothing, breathing apparatus, and we didn't want anybody inside the building, and they were all directed further to not put any water inside the building. We wanted it on the outside in the exposures.
Ironically, at the start of the fire, Battalion Chief David Stone happens to be en route to Station 43 for a meeting and reports to radio dispatch from his freeway vantage point he sees a large plume. Chief Stone heads for the area and a short while later becomes the incident commander.
The initial attack to the building was to protect exposures on the east side of the building, which we had a large warehouse on the east side, and also to protect exposure on the west side, which we had another a commercial building on that side. We also had a truck and trailer full of magnesium products that was being shipped out. We had an exposure on the north side of the building also.
For the firefighters, this incident is going to be like a battlefield. The blaze is so intense and the igniting chips of magnesium are going off like exploding shells or bullets. It's a dangerous situation for those who are trying to contain this blaze.
When we got there, it was about as intense as any structure fire I've been on. Later, when we applied the water to accelerate the fire, it became much more intense than anything I've ever seen.
Sand or dry cement is often used to snuff out a magnesium fire. But Los Angeles County firefighters decide early on that's not the strategy they will use.
A lot of people say that you should put sand on it. And whatever you put on a magnesium fire, it has to be totally dry, because if anything has any part to do with water, then it will cause violent reactions like it did. But as far as using water, we use it to accelerate it, which we did a very good job of doing. But to fight that, you really do need dry sand or dry chemical.
The firefighters are going to accelerate and drown out the fire. They pour up to 5,000 gallons of water a minute on this blaze.
Well, as we applied the water to accelerate it, the fire continued to manufacture little explosions inside of it. It sounded kind of like being in a war zone, with the visual display up over the building and the sound and the concussion effects that you could feel going past you.
Yes. The explosions, they're spectacular, they sound awesome, but don't look up. You know, everybody likes to look up the sparks and ooh and ah, but that stuff's coming down right on top of you, so be thinking at all times.
Actually, the training that we have received in our department has been quite valuable in this respect, but I think of equal importance has been experience, what I've seen in the past. But the reading that you do on this department and the training we've had is all said the same thing. When you get a fire of this volume, the only thing you can do is to apply water in large volumes.
One of the pieces of equipment used to get the job done is a deluge.
We wanted to put a lot of water on the fire at a high velocity to try to kind of bore the fire out or hydraulic the fire out at one point. We lined it up at the back of the building here, and we had 2 engines pumping to it to get 2,500 gallons per minute. And we were able to reach way into the fire, into the seed, and actually bore into it really good, effectively.
Firefighters say if the company had reported the alarm immediately, it would have remained a small incident instead of escalating into a major disaster. The Mark Meadows Company prides itself for fire prevention training and had promised only to call the fire department as a last resort. Investigators have learned that metal fragments falling on an exposed electrical cord ignited magnesium chips. A bucket of dry cement was thrown on the burning metal fragments, scattering them and the fire. Instead of a small amount, the estimate of the fire damage will be almost $1.5 million.
These people did provide a business plan to us with their contingency plan, which included the training of their employees for how they would handle magnesium fire. During our fire investigation, however, we found that apparently their plan had fallen a little short. They did have an employee who was not trained, and as a matter of fact was the person responsible for the start of this magnesium fire.
During the fire, the burning metal produces a billowing, noxious cloud that can irritate the throat and nasal passages. A 1 square mile area surrounding the burning structure is evacuated as a precaution to protect residents from toxic fumes. The thousands of gallons of water used to put out the fire are also going into the storm drains. There's concern the local system could be contaminated. Early on, hazardous materials specialists from the county fire department are evaluating the situation.
Well, magnesium oxide is a product of combustion from burning magnesium, and it's a high caustic product, and it can cause health problems as far as respiratory problems. So all firefighters had to be in full SCBA at all times, and we had to keep citizens and firefighters as much as possible, keep them out of the smoke.
Captain McClellan says he's only seen a couple of fires of this magnitude in his 23 years with the department. Many of his colleagues agree, and they say they have greatly benefited from the experience.
The only thing I could say is that even accelerating the fire like this, we were still on the fire scene for over 10 hours before we left. It's a long, drawn-out process, and it's something you have to give a lot of consideration to your command and control procedures and delegating different sections of the fire to different people. And communications was probably the most important thing we had. Being able to talk to everybody on a clear channel and the relaying of ideas and instructions. So your command situation is real important in this situation.
First thing you want to do is know your district. You have to know where the hazardous materials are, what quantities, how they're stored, and who to contact in case you do have an incident of that type. Once on scene, naturally you want to make sure that all your men are geared, safety gear, have all their turnouts on, breathing apparatus, and safe distance. When they set up their equipment, you want to make sure there's adequate distance to be able to handle a fire of this magnitude. That's very important.
From the start, Los Angeles County firefighters decided to accelerate the fire and let it burn out. During the incident, a number of interested citizens called into fire dispatch offering suggestions on how to put out the fire, from a supposed secret military formula to using dirt and sand. But the firefighters' approach worked. The fire itself was contained to one building and no one was killed or injured. Reporting from the City of Industry in Southern California, I'm Sam Chulin for American Heat.
This incident in the City of Industry is the most recent example supporting following established guidelines in the handling of magnesium. According to NFPA Standard 480 in the Fire Protection Guide on Hazardous Materials, magnesium, including alloys, is described as a silvery metal that looks like aluminum but is 1/3 lighter. It is a combustible metal. Fine powder, thin sheets, chips, and turnings are easily ignited and burn with intense heat and brilliant white flame. Powders form explosive mixtures with air which may be ignited by a spark. Pieces having thickness over 1/8 of an inch are difficult to ignite or to maintain flame, as heat is conducted away so rapidly. However, thick pieces can be ignited when enough heat is applied. In finely divided form, it will react with water and acids to release hydrogen, also hazardous in such form with chlorine, bromine, iodine, oxidizing agents, and acids. In fire conditions, protect the eyes and skin against flying particles. Avoid direct viewing of magnesium fires, as eye injury may result. The firefighting phases include smolder with dry graphite or other suitable dry powders. Do not use foam, carbon tetrachloride, or carbon dioxide. Manual application of water should be conducted with care to prevent contact with burning or molten magnesium. According to Byron Cloud, the Executive Vice President of the International Magnesium Association, any molten metal and water forms an explosive mixture, and if anyone is going to use water on a molten metal fire, they will be at risk. If water is used for exposure protection, one must be extremely cautious that the water does not come in contact with the burning or molten magnesium. If it does, magnesium combines with the oxygen in the water, releasing hydrogen which will explode and scatter the fire.
Apartment complex fires can grow fast, particularly those under construction. We'll take a look at how Ventura County, California firefighters handled one such incident on Second Alarm.
And Dr. Bill Kramer has this month's college questions.
Plus a preview of the latest edition of Pulse.
And American Heaters goes to Illinois, Washington, and Delaware.
It's time for Second Alarm on American Heat.
Over the next year, Ventura County fire officials will review local building codes, particularly when it comes to construction sites. American Heat producer Jeff Mattoon has the story from Thousand Oaks, California.
Santa Ana winds, water problems, and a fast-moving blaze. It sounds like a wildland fire, but it wasn't. Ventura County firefighters had their hands full trying to battle a fast-moving apartment fire. But when it was all done, over 300 units were destroyed.
Fire rescue?
Yes, I'm a resident in the broad track. Looking out my window where Avenida de los Arbos goes down past us, there is a fire.
Can you tell what's on fire, sir?
It may be, I can't tell, but I'm going to guess it might be that new apartment complex that's being built in the...
The color was right. At about 3 p.m., a plumber was doing some weekend work on an unfinished apartment building when his soldering torch touched off the fire. He tried to put it out himself, but that failed, and by the time he went for help, the plume could be seen all over the county.
We were receiving 911 calls from the entire county. Now, this is a very large geographical county, and we don't normally receive calls from 35 miles away, reference a structure fire. So the problem with that is we had to screen each call very, very carefully to make certain that they're not, in fact, reporting a different fire.
Fire rescue, are you reporting the structure fire on Arbalest? Yes. We're on our way. Thank you for calling. Fire rescue?
The fire
right, on Arbalest?
Yeah.
We're on our way. Thank you for calling.
Because of the call load, dispatchers face some unique problems. More on that in a minute. The new apartment complex was the Knolls at Lang Ranch. Its Spanish-style stucco wall and tile roof architecture was appealing. New residents were scheduled to start moving in just weeks from the date of the fire. The Knolls was about 1/3 complete. There was a massive area that was under different phases of construction. Because of this, there were numerous obstacles firefighters faced during the course of the incident. A fast fire spread created some tense moments for firefighters. Exposure fires. Water, or lack of it, was the single largest issue in this battle, and personnel safety was a big concern.
Ventura, copy. 34 is on scene. They have new frames, new construction, approximately a half acre at this time. This is the Arbalest incident.
Well, right up front, we knew that we weren't going to be able to handle the structures that were already burning. It was just too big. Even with, if we'd have had a full alarm coming with us or a task force, we couldn't have handled it. The intent was to move south of the fire because the wind was out of the northeast. We had a pretty good open area that we could hopefully make a stand and cut this thing off. Unfortunately, the fire, once it got into the structures, it ran on us, pushed us back from one defensive position to another.
The Santa Ana winds and low humidity created perilous working conditions. When they arrived, first responders were surprised by the heat.
The engineer went to get out of the engine and actually had to get back in the rig, cover up completely before he could get out and go to his panel to start the work. And we were as far away from the fire at that point as we could get. There are already 3 structures involved. These are 3-story, large condominium apartment type buildings. 3 of them were well involved, a 4th was probably a quarter involved when we got there. At a very conservative estimate, there was at least a half an acre of involved structures. And by involved, I mean they were involved from top to bottom. They were well involved. We knew that we were inundated right from the very start. We started a normal large appliance attack and basically waited for help to come.
And help arrived, lots of it. Soon, Battalion Chief Dale Miller was on scene. He assumed the incident commander role and within 20 minutes ordered over 50 engine companies. The fire ground was divided into 3 major divisions. Division A on the north, Division B on the south, and Division C handled the exposures. Brush fires sprouted up. This was a concern due to the drought conditions experienced in Southern California. Also, homes overlooking the complex were in danger should the brush fires get out of hand.
Yeah, the spot fires were picked up fairly readily. The 3/4 of a mile downwind spot fire was picked up by 1 engine company primarily. The 3 to 5 acre brush fire behind the complex was a little bit tougher. We put a dozer, a couple of hand crews, and a couple of engines working on that, plus our helicopters were making drops to contain it.
Once the spot fires were contained, the helicopters were redirected to make drops on the burning structures. Extreme caution was used.
When you're using the helicopters, it's something you have to be extremely careful about. If you have a fire burning in a residential dwelling or anything like that where you drop on it, the one thing that you have to be super critical or careful about there is the safety of the men that's inside fighting the fire, because we always fight the fire from the inside out, never from the outside in. And I think one of the key things there is if you take 360 gallons of water, that's what our ships carry, and you drop that on the roof of a well-involved house, you can drive that fire and the heat right down on the firemen.
Soon, firefighters encountered their 3rd major obstacle: lack of water.
We were making great headway. And at that time, backing up, we were roughly the 3rd piece of equipment in. There was engine 34 and engine 31 that was in front of us, and then we came in with truck 30 with engine 130. We were making pretty good progress. We were flowing 1,000 GPM. We were sweeping the fire, and then the exposed structures that weren't involved yet. What the problem was we started getting a lot more heat. We were taking heat out of the fire. We noticed a drop of water volume and pressure, so I instructed the firefighters to drop the GPM to 750. We were still maintaining a fairly good amount of firefighting abilities in the defensive mode, and we started losing water again. I directed them to go to 550, and at that time I decided to run over to the engineer to find out what was happening. We got to the engineer, and he advised us that he's doing everything. The compound's now on 0, and he has his tank valve open. So he's now using water out of the tank to compensate for that while we're flowing at the 550 mark now. I turned around and noticed pressure was dropping, and I was trying to get to my 2 firefighters, and they dropped it automatically to 350 now, and the stream was starting to drop. When we did that, I tried to make attempts to get to them, but because there was so much radiant heat now, I couldn't get from the engine back to the hose line. They understood the problem right away due to the heat. They bailed out of there, came back, went straight to a discharge of another engine.
It was discovered that each building had a 2-inch PVC rough water supply line. When fire reached that building, the pipe melted, creating a drain on the precious resource. With the pressure dropping, firefighters had to retreat.
When we pulled up and got our spot by the hydrant, we prepared to set up our stang, which is on top of our engine 30. Well, I looked down the street and I noticed that all these engine companies we were preparing to assist was evacuating or abandoning their post, their position, and they were coming down the street towards us. And I thought, I'm not getting the right picture here. We're going to assist with this defensive tactic, and they're all abandoning it.
While firefighters were battling to stay on top of the fire, the communications center staff was battling to stay on top of the massive call load.
The best measure I have is that if it's chaos there, it's chaos here. If you arrive on scene of an incident and it's hectic and it's demanding and it's defensive and then becomes offensive, all of those things occur here too. In dispatch, you take a defensive mode of attack on a fire, and then it becomes an offensive mode of attack in terms of planning for potential next needs of the incident commander.
We're going to lose this whole thing in here. We're going to burn up some fire trucks. I think we ought to make an effort to set up on the houses that are not under construction, and because we're going to lose fire trucks and people and everything else.
An hour into the fire, personnel safety was a major concern for the new incident commander.
The first resources we had, there was no doubt about the people were getting whipped real bad, and they were getting very tired. And they did the best they could. They made a very aggressive attack on the fire. It overwhelmed them. They were not willing to come out and give it up. We had a difficult time getting them to come out and actually do the rehab where they come out and get some refreshments and get their body temperature down a little bit. It was very hot that day with the wearing full turnouts and the self-contained breathing apparatus. They were getting fatigued. They were unwilling to come out. When we got the fresh troops there from the other outside resources, the tide turned at that time.
The frustration level was high. No matter where firefighters turned, fire was just around the corner. The defensive attack continued well into the night. When the fire reached the stuccoed buildings, firefighters dug in and stopped the blaze. This was an 8-hour battle that fully tested the Ventura County Fire Department.
The tactics were sound, we had good judgment, and we set up to make this stop, and it beat us. The fire actually overwhelmed us and beat us back, and I didn't like that, because I did consider that we're good at our job. We did as good a job as we could do, and I thought this is one time that this fire has licked the Ventura County Fire Department until we reorganized and came up with a second plan that worked.
Even though firefighters and developers have a good working relationship in Ventura County, during the fire and in the days following, each new local building codes would come under scrutiny.
The lesson that can be learned from this fire is that there has to be some limit as to how much framing can be at a certain time, so that you don't overwhelm the fire protection systems and the available firefighting resources in the community. It's one thing we're looking at is trying to develop some type of guidelines in working with the building official and the planning official and the contractors as to some method that can be implemented to reduce the risk factor, reduce the time that this wood is up in that state. It's just a matter of risk, and you have to do whatever we can to reduce that.
Fire officials here want to reiterate a point. They say when assessing water requirements for construction sites, to remember that should a fire break out, you're going to need a lot more water than if the site were complete. In Thousand Oaks, California, I'm Jeff Mattoon.
This is a life-saving sound, but if you're trapped when you hear it, you have few options. But there is now a product designed to give you options. Options that buy valuable time, especially when lives of firefighters are at risk. Introducing the Rapids Air Portable Emergency Air Supply System. The Rapids Air system, as its name implies, will provide a continuous air supply under a number of rigorous conditions. Here's just one. This engine company is about to battle a so-called routine structure fire. They take proper steps to protect themselves and proceed to attack the blaze. While fighting the fire, the unforeseeable happens, and they are trapped. A second engine company is on the way, but our firefighters are almost out of air. But they don't panic, because they have a valuable option. The Rapids Air Emergency Air Supply System. They simply radio back to the pump operator, and quickly a continuous supply of air is at their fingertips. Deploying the device is rapid and simple by design. The Rapids Air system is quick since there are few parts to deal with, and it's simple because the concept is simple. Provide a life-saving supply of air through the fire hose. When the call for air comes, simply get the Rapids Air kit along with an air bottle from the truck. Attach the swivel adapter and connect the unit to the specially designed check valve. In seconds, air is flowing to the trapped firefighters. They simply use the nozzle and their SCBA hose with anything that will pocket air. This buys those valuable minutes or seconds until help arrives. The Rapids Air Emergency Air Supply System is patented. Each component is expertly designed and manufactured. Every kit is complete with components that you can use for a number of rescue opportunities. For more information on the Rapids Air Emergency Air Supply System, contact Rapids Air Incorporated, 10618 Petrieville Highway, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, 48827, or call 517-663-2127.
American Heat is proud to continue providing college credits into the new year and beyond. If you're interested, you can begin receiving credits at any time. Now let's go to Dr. Bill Kramer for this month's College Questions.
Hello and welcome to our college segment for American Heat. I'd like to announce that once again the University of Cincinnati will conduct its week-long workshop for college credit in the Florida Keys. This will take place the week of February 10th. And although we've already enrolled firefighters, fire officers, and fire chiefs from about 30 states and a couple of Canadian provinces, we still have room, and we've extended the enrollment deadline for American Heat viewers. Again, the American Heat videos will be the centerpiece for our course in contemporary issues, where we discuss the latest problems and contemporary technology facing the nation's fire service. So let's go with our questions this month. Question 1. Using the City of Industry Magnesium fire as a case study, explain the interrelationship between firefighter safety and effective fire control at a major incident. Estimate the dollar cost of safety at this incident and explain the return on this investment. Number 2, both water and foam were used to control the Stapleton Airport fire in Denver. Explain how these agents can work at cross purposes and list specific tactical measures that can minimize this problem. Question 3, list the primary and secondary benefits of briefings conducted at shift change during incidents such as the Stapleton Airport fire, which lasts several days. Number 4, explain how water supply requirements vary for complexes under construction versus the same structures when completed. Which of the two levels of water flow would you advocate, and why? Question 5, provide recommendations in construction methodology that could be used to retard fire growth for complexes under construction versus those same structures fully built. That concludes our questions this month. I'll see many of you in the Florida Keys, and I'll see all of you again next month on American Heat. For American Heat, I'm Bill Kramer at the University of Cincinnati.
We have news about CEUs for viewing Pulse. They're being offered through St. Louis University. You can get more information in this month's heat sheet, and you can get started with your CEUs by viewing our latest edition of Pulse.
We've got help on the way. Calm down now. Heart attack, 417 Talbert Court.
Confirming 4 serious injuries at this time.
right, what should you have already been doing because you know you've got a patient that has been laying here trapped for 2 days with possibly crush syndrome?
Crush syndrome. On edition 9 of Pulse, we'll show you the physiology behind this life-threatening injury and talk with experts in the field about its complications, the signs and symptoms, and treatment. We'll take you to the Rescue 90 conference in Gaithersburg, Maryland, where EMS providers and rescuers were put to the test during training evolutions in collapsed buildings. And we'll go into the hot zone of a trench cave-in. We'll see how rescuers and EMS providers work together to save the life of William Brenneman. Rescuers and EMS, the importance of mutual understanding, all on this edition of Pulse. Remember, if you're interested in receiving Pulse, or if you want more information about receiving CEUs for viewing Pulse, contact us at Pulse, 240 Sovereign Court, St. Louis, Missouri, or call 800-722-2443.
Rope rescue techniques in Orland Park, Illinois, carbon monoxide poisoning in Tacoma, Washington, and a 2-alarm blaze in Wilmington, Delaware are all part of this month's American Heaters. 2 years of rope rescue training paid off for the tactical rescue team in Orland Park, Illinois recently. The team responded on November 15, 1990, to a trench rescue. A construction worker had fallen into a 30-foot trench which began 15 feet below street grade. At the top of the trench, a hauling system was set up, consisting of a 3-to-1 Z-rig and safety line with directional pulleys on the bucket arm of the backhoe. Seashoring, which had already been in place, was also used for anchor points. The patient was packaged with a cervical collar, long backboard, head immobilizer, and a helmet, then placed into a sked. The patient was raised using the rope system. Our thanks to the Orland Fire Protection District for this American Heater. Carbon monoxide from gasoline-powered equipment overcame 32 Tacoma firefighters on this ship that was undergoing repairs. The crew of the Gem State reported that some of its members had been overcome by fumes and firefighters responded. Poor ventilation and the gasoline-powered equipment were blamed. Firefighters were wearing SCBAs but removed them to squeeze through an 18 by 24-inch passage. They put them back on, but many had already breathed the toxins. All of the injured were taken to area hospitals to be tested for carbon monoxide levels. Most were treated and released or kept a day for observation. Thanks to Michelle and Ralph Decker from Tacoma for sending this American Heater.
Battalion 410-2, we have a one-story brick, mercantile, and storage type structure.
It was a typical workday for the A platoon of the Wilmington, Delaware Fire Department. Members responded to a variety of runs, including this one, a gas leak in a warehouse. What was unique about this response was the makeup of the department's rescue squad, an officer, driver, 2 firefighters, and a production team from American Heat. This is just one of scores of ride-alongs that American Heat participates in each year, and like members of any department, much of our time is spent waiting. Discussions take place in the day room, entries are made in the station log, and apparatus stand their constant vigil until the next alarm. At 1850 hours, the tone alert sounds. The Emergency Communications Center has received several calls reporting a fire at an auto body shop in an industrial section of the city's east side. American Heat's camera crew responds with Rescue 1. Moments after they leave the station, the officer notices a large column of smoke in the southeast sky. As first due engine companies lay in with 5-inch supply line, Rescue 1 takes up a position on side 2, upwind of the fire. They report a 75 by 150-foot block and frame building fully involved. Fueling the flames are a variety of flammables, paints, solvents, thinners, and 18 vehicles including 3 police cars and 2 medic rigs. Battalion Chief William Curlin calls for additional companies. Exposures aren't a problem, but water supply is. More water is needed to supply the 10 master streams already in service. Low-pressure hydrants begin to run dry, and even though the Christina River is just 1,200 feet away, the city's fireboat is out of service, dry docked for a routine inspection. Arriving companies are forced to lay in from distant hydrants, some nearly a quarter of a mile away. Upon his arrival on the fire ground, Chief of Department Sean Mulhern notices a low-lying cloud of toxic smoke moving over the city's Southbridge section. Companies are assigned to monitor smoke conditions, and Mulhern orders a Level 1 CERT response, which activates the state of Delaware's Chemical Emergency Response Team. Sector 1 Commander Joe Catalona, a deputy chief, continues to monitor fire conditions. Rehab companies are already arriving on the fire ground, relieving firefighters wearied by the cold. After 3 hours of surround and drown tactics, Mulhern places the incident under control. This one wasn't a big one by Wilmington standards, but it will be remembered by firefighters for quite some time. It was the first fire for the department's newest pumpers, twin 1991 Pierce Arrow engines. It was the last fire for Snorkel 2. On January 1st, the fire department assumed EMS duties in the city and, in a controversial move, eliminated the truck in order to man 2 new EMS units. And for Fire Chief Curlin, it was a fitting end for his 38-year career with WFD. He retired the next day. Coming up in Portland, Oregon, the 22nd Annual Northwest Management Seminar. Keynote speakers this year include Vice President Dan Quayle and U.S. Fire Administrator Olin Green. The seminar runs from March 13th through the 15th, and you can get additional information on it in this month's heat sheet.
Well, that's this edition of American Heat. We'll be looking forward to being with you throughout 1991. As always, thanks for watching.
And remember, next time we may be watching you on American Heat.